Hello, hello. So tonight I'm your host, Mohammed Badr from MENA Regional Manager at Free the Slaves. Welcome to Conversations on Modern Slavery. It's a podcast that takes you inside the global fight to end modern slavery. Each episode brings you real stories, powerful voices from researchers, survivor leaders, and frontline advocates to uncover the root causes, confront the current challenges, and explore the bold solutions that are driving change. Whether you're just learning about this issue or you've been in the fight for years, this is where you'll hear honest conversations that inform, inspire, and mobilize. Today's conversation is with someone whose journey is both heartbreaking and deeply inspiring. Jeff is a Kenyan survivor of human trafficking. He was trafficked to Qatar along with 16 other young Kenyans, promised a job that turned out to be a lie. He later spent time in Bahrain working under the kafala system, facing deception, exploitation, and hardship, but also finding the courage to tell his story. Jeff has shared his experience through powerful articles and investigative work that sheds the light on the realities faced by thousands of migrant workers in the Gulf. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. Good to hear from you. I hope the summer is treating you well.
Yes, yes. Jeff, I will start slowly. So before we step into the heavy parts of your journey, um, I want to ask who was Jeff before all this began? What were your dreams back in Kenya before Qatar and Bahrain entered your life? I feel like asking this question because knowing the before help us feel the after.
Okay. So Jeff was a budding young and someone who really wanted to make a change in the world. I started my training as a photojournalist right after high school, and I've been studying photojournalism even before I went to school. It's actually photojournalism that made it possible for me to go to school. I like taking pictures. I'm an artist. I like telling stories. So I was budding. I was right from working from two Kenyan newspapers, very renowned newspapers, and I had high hopes. So what made me want to venture and to seek life abroad is the to chase the dream. I wanted to improve myself and in my career. So I saw an opportunity working in the Gulf as a good opportunity because I wanted to improve. I wanted to study more into journalism and to be better trained. So when I looked at my chances, definitely the West and America and Europe, there were, and Australia as well was very far fetched, and it was not impossible for me. So the best place to which then I saw as an opportunity is for me to go into the Gulf, work, save up money, then be able to venture to 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 study and to venture more into my career. So this was a starting point before I traveled to the Gulf. I had that dream in mind. Well, I still believe I still have it, and but that was the main purpose of me being interested to go work in the Gulf.
Yeah. Jeff, in your migrant rights article, Dreams Buried, Building 18, Street 64, 644 at Rayan, you described that moment in Qatar when you realized the company you were promised didn't exist. Can
Yes.
you take us back to that moment? What went through your mind? Because I can almost feel the weight of that realization in your writing.
This whatever happened in Qatar is a build-up of a long story because from when I decided to go to the Gulf until the day I actually landed in Qatar, it took 5 years. So this was a very long journey and it was a painful journey for us to come up with the money. It's a lot of money, and it took a lot of time. And there's a lot of bureaucracy in getting documents in Kenya. So it was a very painful process. Up until when I reached Qatar, and it was the most disappointing thing. And it was expected because I had done a lot of research and to see what was possible and what was not possible. So the laws in Qatar were pretty clear, and I knew what I was going to do. And I had friends who had also gone there. So we were talking and we were in constant communication. And from my research and from the advice from friends, when I looked at it and I saw the situation, I saw there's clearly a problem. And what was the biggest determining factor of how I'm going to solve that problem was like how is it how can I manage this being in a foreign country for the first time and having a group with me of 16? How am I going to work this out? Remember, it's a new area, and despite the challenges, we didn't have any internet connection. And the area is tucked away in a section of Doha where it's not really a fancy place, because even it doesn't exist on Google satellite view. So you cannot see around that area. It's totally not mapped on Street View, Google Street View. So it was a painful moment. It was a moment I felt like I've lost the opportunity. And this was a build-up. I was working for it for such a long time. And now to get there, and I have 16 other Kenyans who are from very diverse backgrounds here in Kenya, and not all of them were as exposed as I was. And this time, for me, the exposure it was a bad thing, because now for sure now I'm cooked, and I have 16 others who are now relying on me, and they're relying on someone who's also his first time in the country. So it was painful, I can say. It was a painful moment. And the dreams I was talking about, the dreams about studying and about learning photography and about saving a little bit of money and starting a life for myself. I saw them crumbling as I was there, there in Doha at Al Rayyan in industrial area. And yeah, I just saw it was a different world. Once I was there, I walked, one of the days that I was there, I walked for about 5 kilometers in the district. And it was all men I could see, just men. It was very strange. It's a very strange world. So being as a first timer from Kenya, and I went at the heart of summer, it was hot. It was it was a stressful time. But my disappointment is, how was this possible? How could this happen in a country with a very strict rules? Qatar is basically in the first world, and I was so surprised that something like this, being trafficked, could happen to me.
Jeff, also in your Bahrain story back from Bahrain, you described that flight with 9 other Kenyans.
Yes.
Everyone full of hope, talking about building houses, sending money home. When you remember that flight now, what feelings come up?
I came back from my rescue from Qatar. From my rescue, I came back to Kenya. Fortunately, I got married. after a few months, I had to make a choice whether to stay in Kenya and continue languishing or to seek a better opportunity. That's when an opportunity for Bahrain came. When Bahrain came, it took around 2 months for the processing to be finished. It came with a lot of promise and a lot of dreams. The agents here in Kenya really know how to sell the dream, and it gets you at a time of desperation of what to do next with your life. Because now I am a family man, and you constantly thinking what is the next step. And I believe this is the same story the 9 other Kenyans share, because we all met at the airport in Nairobi, and we boarded a plane. We were just strangers, not knowing each other. From my last stay in Qatar, the best advice I could give was to carry a light snack and just keep warm, because from the first experience, when I landed at Sharjah, it was very cold. We hadn't eaten in a day, and it was cold. So I just advised the other 9. Some of them have been to the Gulf, but I just thought it would be wonderful to advise them since I know about Sharjah, the airport. So we came with so many dreams, and we were talking. That was the breaking the ice, and the in the plane, and uh, at where we were on transit as well. And transit, we use that to break the ice, to talk about where we are from and what our dreams are and what we are sharing. Majority of the group came from rural areas, and the priorities were different, and I could see the need for them. This job would represent a change in their life, and it would be a transition. I think it would have been one of the most important jobs in their whole lives. So many of them came with the desire to change, with the desire for a fresh start and to make an impact. That is what we carried into Bahrain. I had previously said I didn't want to go back to the Gulf. I didn't want anything to do with the Gulf. But constant life pressures and all that, and the need to provide for a family made me go back. So this time I went, and I said, if the job is genuine, unlike Qatar, if this is a genuine job and everything works, I'll be willing to take the salary, even if it was a little salary by Kenyan standards. I decided to go. I believe we shared the same message. And we landed in Bahrain, a beautiful airport, wonderful country, wonderful people. And that's where the Bahrain story started.
Yeah. In Bahrain, you also mentioned that you had to register for food donations during Ramadan.
Yeah.
You called it both demoralizing and embarrassing, but also a relief. How did that moment change how you saw yourself? Also, you wrote about losing 25 kilos.
Yes. So, um, we landed at Bahrain International Airport at around 4. I I believe I naturally, although I don't like taking over, I took over the leadership position for the group. It was a wonderful group. The group of 9 Kenyans is a wonderful team, and I believe we'll be connected for life. But when we landed, I decided to take the mantle and call the company directly, and said that we have arrived safely. Can you organize transport for us to our accommodation? So we got from the airport to where we were supposed to get our uniforms, and from there we got from there to the accommodation. The accommodation was a wonderful place. It's a place called Al Hid, north of Bahrain. It was a new apartment. It was my first time being in a Gulf country where I saw locals and non-locals, like expat community, living together. It was a beautiful sight right next to the ocean. I loved it. Very wonderful place. Once we got there, it was an empty apartment. It was a beautiful apartment, but it was empty. And we got in, arranged everything. We found mattresses and beds. So we got in, we stayed, and it was a good night. But we spent a few, like I would say more than a week there, like 4 days or 5 days without doing anything and without any contact from the company. And some of us had carried a little money from Kenya. Others were using bank cards. And we asked the company, now that we are here, what are the arrangements, cooking arrangements, and how are we supposed to feed ourselves? Because in Kenya, our agent had said the food and accommodation are catered for. But upon reaching, we found an empty apartment with only beds, and we were running out of money. That's when the first red flag came in. The company told us, because we had reached in Bahrain in the midst of Ramadan, we'll have to look for mosques and go eat at the mosque in the evening. For me, it's fine. I'm a Muslim man. It was fine. But in my group, there were around 6 or 7 non-Muslims. I found it embarrassing for them having to go with us during iftar time to look for a mosque to eat. I found it not right. For us, it's okay. For the Muslims who were there, it was just a wonderful uh, it was a wonderful experience, because you are fasting Ramadan in a foreign country. That is as well. It has its perks. It just feels good, and it is an experience that feels good. But for the Christian, it was very embarrassing, and I would have to explain things, and I would have to guide them, and I felt that I was in charge, and I didn't want to be in charge for them. They were grown up men, and they were there on their own will. But I felt bad that the company could not provide at least cooking material for us to cook for ourselves at our accommodation. So it felt a little bit embarrassing, but we made do with what we had. And after we did that for a few days, maybe 5 days, that's when we started working. When we started working, one of the biggest and one of the most unjust thing that happened in Bahrain, we went to the main office of the security company in Bahrain. At the main office, we entered. We were so excited that day, all 10 of us. We were given a talk, and we were given an orientation. Basically, this is the first communication from the company since we landed. I think this is about 10 days in Bahrain, or maybe 7. I'm not sure, but it took time. I can say 10 days. This is the first communication. And after the briefing, they took all our possessions, all our bags, all our phones, everything. As someone I came with with the hope, and I started feeling skeptical. It's not a good sign when someone takes your phone. In a foreign country, your phone is the biggest, the most important thing you can possess. A phone. Some will say a passport, but I will say a phone is the most important thing, because without a phone, especially now in the digital age, it came as a shock. So once they asked for our phones, they gave us contracts. And when I was coming from Kenya, I thought I already signed a contract. So when I saw this new contract, it was very interesting. But I was not allowed to read it. And I was only given that contract because the country's identification number is called the CPR card number, is on that contract. So I needed to take a picture of that CPR card number. I'll tell you why it is important and why it was needed. So I needed to take that picture and keep it on my phone so as I could memorize the CPR number. So once that was done and our phones were taken, I signed a contract without reading. And most of us complained, why are we not reading this? Why are we not reading this? But there's always desperation, especially when you need a job and you need money. We were 10 of us. We just believed the company had goodwill and it will do good by what it says. After all, the apartment was nice, and we have been managing so far, and it's hard, but we are trying. We are acclimatizing. All throughout, we were just comparing it. I was just comparing it between Bahrain and Qatar. What's good in Qatar? What's good in Bahrain? All through that. But I loved Bahrain. It's a good place. So I measured, is this really something that's supposed to be done? But I said it's okay. So we signed the contract. And after signing the contract, we went back on our way. We picked up the uniforms that we got measurements for on the first day, and we started working. So that is when those are the two times. The first time I got food rations, and we actually had to organize with the aid group, a very a known migrant workers rights group in Bahrain, and they organized food for us. So once we got that food, it came courtesy of someone I knew in Bahrain. So once we got that, we got to get food rations for the 10 of us. It felt very good. At least we got something to start with. And all we needed to do is to get cooking materials. So 5 of us bought a electric cooker, and 5 of us bought 2 pots to cook with. So to share in between the 10 of us. 5 of us stayed in that apartment in one room, and the other 5 in another room. The other rooms were all empty. And those 3 times are very iconic to me. When we got the food rations, when we signed the contract without reading it, and when we landed and didn't find anything to cook with. So that is the journey of how we landed in Bahrain, sorry, and how life started. So once work started, it became a little bit much more easy, and we were happy, we were busy. We used to do, our contracts stated 12 hours, but we used to do around, I would say, 17 hours if you count in the travel time. So I would say we would be working for 17 hours. We got in at around 1 p.m., 1 in the afternoon, and we would work until 6 a.m. every day. So just little time to come back home and cook. And in between our shifts, we got a supervisor. So what we would do, we would, as Kenyans, we would call each other while on duty. Where we are working at the first place, it's a Bahraini school. I won't give so much details because of the other people who are still working there, but we are working in a Bahraini national school, and it required guards at night. So what we would do, we would call each other, and once we call each other, we would alert each other. So if the supervisor is coming at this time, we would tell each other so that we would not be found sleeping. It was a long shift and many of us were sleeping. And so that is what we do. And in the morning, come back, wash up, cook something very fast, eat, and run back to work. Yeah. Between 8 and 12. That's the only free time we had at our accommodation. So it was a very busy work, but we were happy. And once we were together, it was we made the most of it. So the only thing that changed all of this, the only thing that demoralized, I was transferred from Al-Hid accommodation and I was sent to Sitra accommodation. Sitra accommodation was one of the first accommodations that the company owned. And once I entered Sitra accommodation, I regretted. I've never seen anything like that. Mind you, I'm from a Kenyan slum. I was raised in a Kenyan slum, but I've never seen anything like that. It was very unhygienic. The area was I don't think the area is not suitable. By all standards, I'm not even being mean about the company or I'm not feeling bitter, but by all standards, I don't think people should live like that. So when I was transferred, one of only Kenyans there were other Kenyans, but they were somewhere, they had their own room and it was full. So I would say I was different and I was just, I was different from the rest. I was placed in a Sudanese accommodation, a Sudanese room. They were kind enough to accept me. So I had to start from scratch. I had to look for ways to make meals. This accommodation only offers a bed, doesn't offer water, drinking water. The water inside is recycled, so you can't drink it. And yeah, it was some windows were missing. It was chaotic. I have pictures, maybe I'll share with you, but it was chaotic. So when I was cut off from the group of Kenyans I came with, survival became hard because we would cost share meals and would make meals together, and it was much more easy. But when I was brought alone and I was transferred to a school in, I think I've forgotten the name of the town, but the school is a school. It's a government school, but it caters for a certain community that has a majority in Bahrain. So when I was placed there, I had to man 5 gates as a security guard, 5 gates reaching 150 meters. So the gates were all lined up around 150 meters from gate 1 to gate 5. So gate 1 would handle elementary school kids, the smallest kids. Gate 2 will handle girls. Gate 3 will handle main visitors and teachers. Gate 4 would handle boys, students, and gate 5 would be the parking gate. So I had to man all of that, and I was doing the most of the job there. So it took me away. I lost so much. Plus, not forgetting, I had to also control traffic around the parking in the morning when the parents are dropping kids. It was one of the most difficult jobs ever. I came to realize that I'll be open about it. I'll say it. The hardest jobs are reserved for Africans. So I had to do the job, despite how hard it was. So it was reserved for Africans because the other nationalities would not be able to do that. So they took me from a Bahraini national school, which doesn't have a lot of work, and it's very systematic and works very well, to a school that caters to one ethnic community from one country. And it was very difficult. And that's when I lost so much weight in such a short time. It became impossible for me to work. When that happened, I was very determined. Back home, I had a wife and a kid on the way, and we were having a healthy issue with the pregnancy. So I had to work as hard as I can. I could not give up. I wanted to make it because a lot was riding on this job. I had spent a lot of money to come, and I had to make back that money. So what would happen? I persevered despite everything, and by then I had started to get meals, maybe one meal a day, and sometimes we were being given food but there was no official eating arrangement. It is only when you're lucky, only when member of staff gives you a sandwich and all that, only if maybe your friend at the accommodation has extra. That was the arrangement. It was never organized, and we were never sure about tomorrow. So when that happened, I gave up. I decided to take a taxi from the school during my duty to the labor market authority, which is the governing authority for any experts especially, and they govern the mandate, and they they also have to authorize your work permit. So I went there and I made my complaint that I have been having these problems with the company, and I feel I'm being overworked way beyond what I agreed. And they asked me what to do next, but they were not giving me a way forward. They listened to my complaint, but they didn't offer any solution. It was like they received the report very well, but I didn't know what to do next or what are my options next. So they got me in contact with a Kenyan representative, and that was it. I didn't hear from them again. So I went back, and I could not go back to the school because now it was dangerous for me. My health was not good. Once I came back to work, they changed my location again, now to an LMRA office. So this company has government contracts, and now I'm being changed from one government agency to another government agency. And it is there when the first day I took advantage and asked for my contract, the contract that I signed in Bahrain. And once I got it, I saw there's a difference, and the details were very different from what we agreed in Kenya. And that's when I confronted the company and asked, why are the details different? And that's when I got to understand why our belongings were taken away when we went to sign the contract at the company office. So that was the first contract breach, and it now it took my faith away from the company. Now I realize why they were hiding. The only page we were allowed to take was the page with the CPR number, and that page was useful because when the supervisor comes, a government supervisor will need your CPR number. So we were only allowed that to take and memorize it so that we don't waste their time. I also confronted Ministry of Education because at one point during Eid celebrations, we work back home. So that's almost 72 hours of work. And I've never done a shift that long. So I wanted answers. How can this be possible? How can a contract state this and yet the opposite is working? And it was by luck, and now I'm working at an LMRA center. Now I can lodge my complaint and I can see what next. But what happened, it was the complete opposite. I guess I'll finish off with the story later. What was your next question?
No, I'm really engaged with the story. I want to know what happened later. Um, I mean, I have several questions, but
Yeah.
Jeff, if
Yeah.
if if you could speak directly to a young Kenyan being offered one of the jobs today,
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
I am very conflicted on what to tell a Kenyan because the model country is definitely is Qatar with over 70,000 Kenyans who are working and they have means and they are not engaged with whatever is happening here in Kenya. I went to Qatar in July last year and there were government protests happening here in Kenya. I went to Bahrain this year and they still left government protests happening. I would like a fellow Kenyan to get opportunities. These countries are good countries, but the policy that is making things to be difficult is as I would put it, is a political problem. It's a legislative problem. But I would tell them now in the GCC, working and being able to get a decent job, it's only by luck. It is not guaranteed. You will get a job, but the decency level is not guaranteed. It can be the best job, it can be the most shameful job. It can even be illegal work because I know someone personally I'm related to. He just came back, but he was doing illegal work in the in a country I can't mention. So I would say going to the GCC now for a fellow Kenyan is a gamble. It's a risk. It's only possible if it's the last thing you can do. Yeah. I would only encourage it if it's your last option.
Jeff, I mean, based on your experience, let's think about solutions, not big political reforms, but
Yes.
maybe human-sized steps. What would make the biggest difference in protecting people from going through what you went through?
Empathy. Empathy would make the biggest difference. I would say that because empathy has been forgotten in the contracts that people sign, in the business themselves. I will usually say if people over profit is more promoted, people can go a long way. These companies, they don't belong to, most of them, they don't belong to the nationals, they belong to foreigners. So it's foreigners using other foreigners and making host countries look bad. But if we prioritize empathy in between people, if we sensitize, if we if we make standards a standard, yeah, standards should be a standard. Because once we treat people differently, like how nationalities are treated differently, that opens the gate for exploitation and people to be used. So I will say the biggest hurdle and the biggest step is the lack of empathy. And if we use empathy, I think we'll be able to go a long way in improving standards. Mind you, it goes across board, and people are taking advantage whenever cases of human trafficking or exploitation is happening. It's not the work that is uh, is is uh, is like a big factor in bringing people over. It's that the fact that people are trusting other people with their lives, and the people who are being trusted do not care. So if we can solve that caring part, if we can make someone care for someone else, I think that is the biggest goal.
Jeff, I think maybe my final question. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but if I would have a question, after everything,
Yeah.
what do you dream about now? Like, has your definition of a good life changed?
Yes. Now the goal is even much more bigger because not only do I have to 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 make a life for myself, not only do I have to provide, not only do I have to work, the work also has to meet certain standards, certain laws. I wish to work fairly and maybe even open a business which is fair. And now, once I have all that, what about everyone else? Why not push the envelope? Why not go a step further in ensuring that this doesn't work? When it comes to even human trafficking, like people forget trafficking can happen to anyone, including animals can be trafficked as well. So the biggest chapter or the next chapter for me is just pushing the envelope, spreading the word, making people aware. Many of the people who are going to the Gulf from Kenya don't know the definition of human trafficking. Many people here in Kenya don't know. There are people being trafficked here in Kenya. There are people who are living in oppression. There are people who are employed in oppression and tied to very harsh and unfavorable terms. So speaking out for me is something that I am able to do, and it came as a blessing having to know how to tell stories, how to know how to use a pen, and now that I have that ability, maybe the next chapter would be using it to provide for myself and to speak and to help out others who are in need.
Jeff, thank you for trusting us with your story, your courage and speaking out, and I mean your commitment to sharing not just the pain but also the lessons. Remind us why these conversations matter, honestly. And to our listeners, if Jeff's story moved you, share this episode, talk about it, be part of the change. Um, this has been Conversations on Modern Slavery. I'm Mohammed Badr, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much.